So this Thursday we are on the third meditation of a set of meditations that's focused on dancing. So you all understand why they're called dancing, right?
Hopefully.
No?
Hopefully.
Okay, the first meditation that we did was the dancing third eye. And really we called it dancing because it was working with the Nataraja energy. And then the second meditation that we did last week, Thursday, we called it dancing again, and we used the metaphor of a ballerina with her masculine partner holding her stable and steady. So today we're doing the third of those. And they're all called dancing because they emanate from the Nataraja energy. So you all remember me saying, not so long ago, that at CERN they installed a 2-meter high Nataraja as the only thing they could find in this entire universe to represent the mysteries, the enigmas, the unknowns, and what is known in the universe. These are the clever people who are able to split an atom and are clever enough to admit that there is a vast body of what is unknown, undiscovered, that they cannot make sense of it, that all of their questions lead them nowhere in their discovery because they're asking the wrong questions. And they acknowledge that.
What's a Nataraja?
That is a Nataraja. Okay, so what is a Nataraja? Nataraja is Shiva in his dancing form as he is in my training room. So, back to what is intelligible and what is unintelligible in the universe. There is this understanding, and a clear understanding, that we really do not know. And you remember the talk about I don't know, opening doors. We do not know so much that what we do know has also been described as the tip of the iceberg. You remember that metaphor? The tip of the iceberg? And really what we don't know beneath the surface is more than enough to sink the Titanic. So, sitting with all of the stuff that we don't know, just try to fathom in your mind, if you will, how much stuff, how much data, how much information that is, and that it is so much information. It's so much data about the existence of the universe, about our place in it, about how our intelligence connects to it and dances with it, that even if we used NASA's wireless and its unlimited supply of gigabytes, how fast does the NATO service work? 996 gigabytes per second, more or less, last I heard. Well, even if we used NASA's system to download everything that was available in the universe, we would never come to an end. This is how mind-bogglingly unfathomable it is for me. And in the midst of this, us, these significantly insignificant beings, are trying to make sense of everything instead of surrendering to the understanding, and there's that word again, understanding that the sense we make of it is personal. It is only within what we see, the context we create around it. So, I heard myself explaining to somebody the other day that this is what we call our circumstances, our context. The word circumstances comes from the word circumference. In my circle, what goes around comes around. I am making sense of the circle that I have created around me. My circumference is my perimeter, the limits, the boundaries of my existence. And we do that on purpose because everything else is just so much. And if my brain, which is so limited, had to deal with the so much, it would go into total freak out and burnout, and it would crash like a hard drive that's receiving too much data and too much information and too much electricity at once. Too many wires being fed with too much electricity, too much light energy simultaneously, it would crash. And so we have a built-in mechanism that says, I create this circle, I create a blueprint that puts me in the circle, and in that circle called my universe, I play, I engage, I interact. That's my context, that's my stage, that's my circumstances. Everything else is over there, and it remains enigmatic, mysterious, unfathomable, and my connection with it is what I play with and explore, and I call it faith. But really, it's there. Why do you need faith? It's there. There's no question about whether it's there or not. It's there. Even the scientists agree. It's there. They agree to the extent that they put the Nataraja, all 2 meters of it, at the headquarters in CERN, in Geneva, to say we agree there is more going on in the universe that we scientists can fathom. And in the midst of this unfathomable sphere of intelligence, there is you, plodding along instead of dancing. Just plodding along instead of dancing. The whole universe is dancing to its own little drummer, but we are plodding along inside of our circles because there are so many limitations that we impose upon ourselves. So we've done a series of meditations in both the Tuesday group and in the Thursday group, and really everybody in these groups has access to everything now, right? Everybody has access to everything, so there's no excuse to not know what I'm talking about. We've had meditations where we've sat in the middle and we've projected ourselves in 8 different directions in order to be prepared for living holistically, for living the circle, for meeting the circumference and flowing back into ourselves, because what goes around comes around. What we put out comes back to us. So we've established ourselves at the center of the circle so we can flow into it. We've established the boundaries within the circle in terms of knowing what is the one thing that focuses us and motivates us. We've established boundaries in terms of knowing what is the truth of self that I want to perpetuate into the world. What is my relationship with myself and what is my relationship with the universe, and how do they mirror each other? Have we asked all of these questions and found some answers to all of these questions in these meditations? Can I get a nod or a yes or an I, madam, or yay, guru? Anything, anything?
Yeah, go, go, go.
Good going, Vino. I'll tell them later. So, where from? Do tell. So, sorry, whole other conversation going on there, see? Multi-dimensional system. So having asked all of these questions, having done all of these meditations, the question I have today is, do you understand? Do you truly understand that you are not alone? That we are not alone? That this planet, which is the only one that does have chocolate on it, I've checked, is not alone. It's so crazy. It's so crazy to think of Earth as not being alone or being the only planet with intelligent, immediately before flat here, being the only planet with intelligent life on it. One might question whether the planet Earth has intelligent life on it or not, but I think I qualify as intelligent. I think all of you qualify as intelligent. So from that perspective alone, yes, it has intelligent life on it. Whether in its entirety, in its average existence, we qualify as intelligent life is yet to be seen. But this planet with intelligence and life on it is not alone. In the vast cosmic world, where everything is changing and flowing and dancing consistently, and you are directly connected to it, you are not alone. And yet aloneness and loneliness with it is one of the biggest sources of poverty consciousness and deprivation consciousness on the planet right now. It is the number one stress and the number one source of depression, of suicides, because this aloneness and loneliness leads to the feeling of not being understood, of receiving no understanding, of being disconnected from everything. And of course, we've been raised in a society, particularly women, where if you don't have a partner, if you don't have somebody to call your own, then you're what? A spinster on the shelf? All of those fabulous words? Yeah? It's only recently that they've been describing them as phenomenal women. Yeah? Maya Angelou, thank her wonderful soul, wrote this beautiful poem that set women up as phenomenal women. So that became a byword in our society. But there are cultures all over the globe where women who are on their own, who do not have partnership, have no belonging, where women who are widows have no belonging, where men who don't have families are always considered the one man out. You know about being a bachelor? Yeah? Now, that oneness that one establishes with oneself in the universe, that gives us things like independence, that gives us healthy relationships with ourselves, that we have labeled being alone. And then feeling your aloneness as a burden, and feeling your aloneness as a painful aspect of your life, as if you are suddenly unpopular and unwanted and abandoned by the universe in general, that feeling we call loneliness. And both of those feelings are easily available in the mass consciousness as a source of deprivation. I am deprived of connectedness. I am deprived of human touch. I am deprived of validation and acknowledgement. On the completely flip side of that, where I live predominantly in a spiritual world and everybody is so connected, you'll be like communicating or having a dialogue with one aspect of spirit and at least 30 others are eavesdropping. I never realized how gossipy spirit is, actually, until I said that. But everything is so transparent, everything is so available, everything flows so easily. And that's the network that is constantly at work. And we as the lower vibration of that, are intended to live in exactly that same network. We're designed for it. We're designed to intuitively communicate with each other. And instead, what we're doing is living in a universe where communication is one of the most difficult things. Regardless of all of the technology, we have difficulty communicating. We have difficulty explaining our aloneness and our loneliness and the difference between the two, and remaining connected despite the choice of aloneness. Now, I've had some really harsh lessons to learn the past couple of months. They've been difficult for me, as most of you have witnessed. Here I am going into partnership with a relationship with a man whose primary language is French. And I don't speak this language. Really, I don't. Communication is difficult. Thank God for Google Translate. But there is a different kind of communication that says he gets me. He gets it. And I understand that there is a communication that happens in terms of feeling that makes all of the wordiness, and you all know how wordy I need to be. Yeah? And I've said, I can't just sit here and transmit the energy and you'll all get it and we'll all be happy. Because we're on WebEx, I have to talk for a living. So, wordiness is my game. It's the middle of my name. It's how we do things here. And without the wordiness, how am I supposed to communicate? There is a dependency on communication with words. There's a dependency on communication with emotions. And of course, I'm very fond of saying, the only person, the only being who understood my spiritual life and my spiritual journey was Paddy. And when Paddy was here, thank you, when Paddy was here, I didn't feel so alone on the earth plane and lonely with it, because she understood, she knew. It takes too much time to explain it sometimes. And then I have the soul sisters and I can explain things to them. So there is a level of being less alone. And now here comes Pascal, and he is watching Doreen Virtue on YouTube. No, seriously. No, don't give me that look. He's listening to Wayne Dyer in French and in English. And I'm going, hold on. This is what I do every day. This is who I am every day. This is what I'm being. But here's this thing called communication that puts me on one side, and I actually can't teach you this. I can't give this to you. Even now, really, I'm tempted to stop and say, Pascal, I'm talking 19 to the dozen. Can you understand everything that I'm saying, other than the fact that I'm taking your name in vain every step of the way? So it's a whole new challenge of being understood without saying everything, and being understood by being more succinct, more effective in the communication, and it's brought to focus. I communicate to be understood, not just to teach, not just to inform, not just to demonstrate, but to actually be understood. And now here's the slapper in the face. Best I understand what it is I want to communicate before I want to ensure somebody else understands it. No, seriously. So I tried this. I tried to have an entire conversation with myself in Afrikaans, because this is a language I'm familiar with. And man, did I grapple. I tried to make the whole sentence in my head in Afrikaans by thinking in Afrikaans. And I struggled. So I had to think it in English, translate it into Afrikaans, memorize it in Afrikaans in order to have the conversation with myself. Google Translate was easier. So I imagine Pascal doing that, and I realize how difficult it is for me to now create understanding when already there's a language barrier. When you're talking spiritual stuff, when I'm talking spiritual stuff with anybody, there's a language barrier, because spirit is its own language. It's a whole other realm. There are so many things, so many nuances and variations and variables and circumstances to get in the way of creating understanding. It's like doing the cha-cha. Yeah? 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Every step of the way. And it doesn't matter what the relationship is. Pascal's just a really great example. It doesn't matter what the relationship is. I was in Mpame, and really life is difficult. It's hard. But to have conversations with the people who are predominantly Xhosa speaking. They speak English, they prefer to speak in Xhosa. We are strangers there, we are guests, they're happy to converse in English. But to have conversations about them with them when actually you have nothing in common, absolutely nothing in common, beyond the fact that we're all human, we're all here to pay our respects and to grieve, we have children, we have the same struggles around being human, just at different levels of the scale. I've never had to survive the way they do. Never. So I recognize how little we have in common. And yet there is a striving to create understanding, to recognize the connection and to strengthen it. And that's what understanding does. It strengthens the connections. So when you're communicating with people, we're either talking to instruct, we're talking to judge. What was that phrase? Why are you still talking? We're talking to substantiate and explain and justify and rationalize. We talk as if we want to create understanding. But we must check, do I understand first? Do I understand what I want to create understanding around? And more importantly, am I connected in creating the understanding? Now I find myself doing really ridiculous things. And I see Pascal do it as well. We talk to each other on video calling, and we both lean into the camera as if, seriously, this body language is that we both lean into the camera, so we can see each other more clearly on the video, the connection will get stronger. Now the other person's really going to understand what I'm saying, right? But just the leaning in is the language. It's a communication. It's an understanding that I'm willing to hear. I'm willing to listen. I'm willing to share. And by the same token, you'll notice people leaning back, stepping back, moving out of the space, moving out of the circle because they actually don't want to know. All of these different types of communications. You okay, Maris?
No, no.
Okay.
I thought I'd rattled something here that I wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, it's fine. They're all very rattleable, if there is such a word. But you all understand what I meant by that, right? Yeah. You see? Some things we get it immediately. Other things, we struggle with it. So this creating understanding, we know, takes in communication. Giving and receiving, you've all heard that. What are you sending? What are you transmitting? What is the other person getting? We've talked about perceptions. We know it's a dance. We know about resistance to understanding. We know that when people don't want to hear, they don't hear. We know that if they don't want to speak, they don't speak. So understanding becomes a choice, and that choice is made before the communication, not in the middle of it. Have you noticed that? Yeah. When I listen to understand, I listen differently. When I speak to create understanding, I speak differently. It's a totally different dance. Then it's the cha-cha. If I'm not intending to be understood, if I'm not connected for understanding, you could be doing hip-hop. Yeah, it's a totally different dance. And of course the dance is determined by what frequency, what sound you bring to it, what music is playing. And you are the person who's deciding what music to play. You're deciding whether you're playing a ballad or Will Smith, headbanging music. Is it all that jazz? What music are you playing to have this relating and interaction in your circle, to create understanding, and of course in the midst of all of this, to play with the understanding that you are not alone. Now we all know about those people who just talk to themselves, right? I'm one of them. And I was one of those children who liked to play by herself. I liked my alone time. I love my alone time. I cherish my alone time. Mainly because when I am alone, I can dance in the house with myself. And I can dance with the dog, and I can dance with spirit, and I can be with myself. But then I've always looked a little bit crazy like that, because I know a lot of people who cannot stand, they cannot bear to be alone. Any moment of aloneness feels like rejection, that society has rejected them, their friends have rejected them, nobody wants them, so that's why they are alone. And they will do anything to make sure that they are not alone. And in that set of circumstances, in that game, there is no understanding again that we are never alone. So the very first time I said this to a Christian client who was incredibly offended when I said, "No, don't worry, you're never alone. Even when you go to the toilet, God is there." She was so offended. And I wondered, where do you think God goes when you go to the toilet? Really? When Patty did her business in the park, she would turn her head the other way. And she'd be very offended if I watched her doing her business. And I'd say, but Paddy, you know God can see you. And she thought it was perfectly acceptable for God to see her doing her business, but completely unacceptable for me to see her doing her business. There's an understanding that there is no privacy, that there is no separation from God, that we can demand privacy, we can create privacy with other human beings, with other incarnated souls on the physical plane, so that we have space from each other, so that we have boundaries with each other. That's what privacy is for. And the opposite of privacy is intimacy. So we create intimacy with specific people, not the whole universe. But with God, there's no privacy. There's only intimacy. Which is like a really hard thing for most people to get. You know? First thing in the morning, you wake up, there it is. You go, did you hear me snoring? I don't snore, do I? And they go, no, we heard you snoring. And they skip the rest of the question. We heard you snoring. You almost fell off the bed. Did you know that? And you go, did you watch me sleep? Yes, we watch you sleep. Why do you watch me sleep? You're cute when you sleep and you're silent. It's interesting. And we weren't watching you sleep. We were watching your body sleep. You were up here with us watching your body sleep. Oh, that must have been fun. No, this is entertaining. Don't you have anything better to do? No. Don't you have anywhere else to be? No. Aren't you busy? Why aren't you running out of time? Go catch up with stuff. We're timeless. You know, it's a whole other world. And you go, this is too intimate, people. But everywhere you go, what makes you think you are alone? Just because you have a body that is separate from all the other bodies, and separate from the chair, and separate from the floor, and separate from the sky, doesn't mean you are alone. So now I want you to all go to bed tonight thinking, who's watching me sleep? Who's watching over me while I sleep? Yeah? When you go to the toilet, somebody's there. Somebody's there. Everywhere you go, you are not alone. Everywhere you don't go, you are not alone. You are in an eternal dance with spirit. So when we go to shopping malls, spirit is everywhere. You go to a funeral, spirit is everywhere. You go to a wedding, spirit is everywhere. This is why I avoid crowds. And people think it's because there are too many people there. But for every people that's there, there's a whole host of spirit connected to them. What? Thank you. But even if you weren't talking to spirit the whole step of the way, even if you weren't engaging in all of that stuff, what have you got going on with you that keeps you connected? Other than breathing, other than the fact that you're a light being, that you are the source itself in its unfathomable existence, that you are the Nataraja fully present, you are a dance that is unfolding consistently within the boundaries of your own circle. What else have you got going on that ensures that you are not alone? Anybody? Life. Energy. Unlimited, infinite, eternal, capable of transformation, transfiguration, that it can shapeshift, that energy can be anything, and that everything you are interacting with is energy. This is what connects us to the sun. It's what connects us to all beings, and we talk about this, that we are these miraculous forms and frequencies of energy, that everything in the universe is energy. And we can say, I am soul, and that would be a way of acknowledging our existence that may actually give us a special status. But Pandora is soul, Lady is soul, Zita is soul, even Kelly is soul, Anis. This is the parrot. Also, Paddy is soul, Teddy is soul. On the other side, all of our parents also. And then we have masters and we have guides and we have angels, and it's all energy. It all comes back to energy, and that difference between Shiv and Shiva, right? We talked about this when? The difference between consciousness there and consciousness here. It's all just energy. And this is the one thing, well, the other one thing, that ensures that you are never alone. It is always connected. Whether you are conscious of your connectedness to all energy or not, it is always connected. It is always transmitting information to itself. And that's why Carl Jung called it the ocean of consciousness. Because in the ocean of consciousness, there is no discrimination between one bubble and the next, one drop of water and the next. It's all so connected, it's all so together that it looks like one. And that's exactly how we appear to spirit. Now, isn't that just so lowering and bloody depressing? That when spirit looks at all of humanity and all of the incarnated souls on this plane, it just sees one big ocean of consciousness. And I was like, oh, hold on a second, surely I'm a bright light there somewhere. And they go, no. If you look at India, for example, at night from the air, you know NASA pictures again, you look at India at night, you see entire huge dark spots, right? And then you see concentrated light. Well, this is how we look. If you look at Africa, there are even bigger dark spots and concentrations of light along the coast. You can tell exactly where Cape Town and Durban are, except we're not as clear from satellite pictures as Mumbai is. So some parts of the world are more lit up at night and more easily discernible as a city, and even the shape of that city, when you look at satellite pictures at night, than other parts of the world. The same thing with the consciousness. Exactly the same thing with the consciousness. It's as if you're taking nighttime pictures of the human consciousness or soul consciousness on the physical plane, and some of it is lit up and some of it is just big dark spots. And the light spots gets to light up the other areas, gets to transmit itself into the dark spots where there is the absence of light, Rama. Whole other conversation going on WebEx while I'm talking. Seriously? So, darkness, the absence of light. Remember this whole conversation Rama started? Yeah. So we have that. And what we get is actually that this darkness, which is the absence of light, is also the absence of awareness, the absence of mindfulness, the absence of consciousness, the absence of a specific type of intelligence that we call spiritual intelligence, the absence of an understanding. This does not mean that there is an absence of a dance, just that it's a plodding dance. Like the two-step instead of the tango. The dance gets more complicated as the rhythm gets more complicated. So there are times when the Lord Husband is just doing the two-step, and there are times when he's doing a full-scale Bharatanatyam. Yeah? Classical Indian dance. So we understand that consciousness requires different responses in different moments, that circumstances change, that the circumstances impact on us, and we must change with it. We cannot expect that life, this wonderfully enigmatic cure for death, is going to stay the same all the time. It is supposed to be a different dance all the time. When we did the third eye dance and we projected ourselves into the circle, we said, here is the stability, And then we brought that stability down into your energetic spine, and we set the ballerina up. So this stability means that your entire auric field is a flowing intelligence, maintaining your entire circle open in a multi-dimensional way to ongoing change. Whatever meets my flow will be stabilized. Whatever I project out of my flow will come from stability. And today we're putting into this, I am never alone. Now you'll remember that in those two meditations, we talked about the presence of spirit as a frequency in your flow anyway, right? Duh? No? I don't listen to these things, yes or no? Yeah? Don't set me wrong, just, yeah, okay. Well, did we invite your guides and angels and masters to be present? Huh? You don't know?
We did last week, Thursday.
Did you do this meditation?
I was paying attention.
Did you do the meditations again?
No, I didn't do it again.
Yeah, okay. You see how your guilt gets, just like flows through, and I can see it so clearly. Oh, guilt. What a waste of energy and emotion. You should have just done the meditation and saved yourself the guilt. Seriously, just, people, just do the right thing. You know, you'll save yourself such a lot of wasted energy if you just kept your word to yourself at least. Because if you keep your word to yourself, you have a clear understanding that you are reliable. This is the whole thing about circumstances and managing your circle and creating your stability. It's who you are that's in your circle. All of these people who are in your circle, it's who you are. Damn, I have to like reform my circle a little. It's who you are. And therefore you are not alone. You are coming back at you from every possible place. You are not alone. You are dancing with everybody. This is like one big, what's that? In Hinduism we have this big communal dance. The Gujarati people have this, the garba. There you are. You are all doing a garba. So today we've done the cha-cha, we've done the two-step, we've done the hip-hop, we've done some tango, we've done Bharatanatyam, we've plodded, and now we're doing the garba.
Jazz.
Did we do some jazz as well?
Said so.
Okay, here we go. I'm so exhausted with all this dancing now. Shall we just be very clear? Today's meditation is about ensuring that the stability of that third eye dancing is properly grounded in your energy system, on the understanding, clear understanding that you are a channel of intelligence, firstly, that is never alone. Secondly, that is constantly transforming and transfiguring the consciousness of self and the consciousness that surrounds self. I cannot distinguish between the two. It is one. That's what you're doing all the time in creating your circle. And thirdly, as a timeless being, now let me emphasize this one, as a timeless being working in the now moment, you have the capacity to impact on all intelligence beyond this particular planet and this galaxy as we know it, into the intelligence of the universe as it flows in a multi-dimensional way through multi-universal systems. That unfathomable, enigmatic stuff that is represented by Nataraja himself. It's so easy though. It's so easy to do that. Because the only requirement for that is that you be true. This above all, to thine own self be true. For then it follows, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. And in being true, what I say, what I think, what I feel, what I do, and my emotions are all in harmony with each other, then you are sending one signal. You're not doing the two-step anymore and speaking with forked tongue. Then you are dancing with the universe. And today is a really good day for this because today is a 22 day, right? It's the master number day. In fact, it's a 222 day because it's 22-2. So it's my day. But the double twos is about harmony. I turn this outer two inward to create a heart shape that is stable. I stabilize my compassion. I create harmony. I create balance within myself and I project that into the world. That's what the 22 is. The additional 2 is that I know that that heart has a multi-dimensional field to it because the third 2 that is aligned with it. And I look at it from above and I look at it from all sides now, I get a heart that's actually spinning in a multi-dimensional way and flowing in every direction. So whether you're into 2-2 or 3-2, it's okay. The ballerina was into 2-2. Today we do 3-2. No? Have I completely confused all of you now? Brilliant. Because today I am speaking for teaching, I am speaking for challenging, I am speaking for yanking you out of your comfort zone and putting you in a whole new zone. I am not speaking for understanding. Except when I say the word understanding. How many times have we said it now? Are you like trying to keep track there? Almost. Okay. You weren't counting. Okay. We should have been up to about 9 by now. Let us meditate.
So before we start, I have to ask, what